Before we begin today's story, take a brief moment of silence. Some stories are not meant to be rushed. They are meant to settle gently in the heart. At the edge of a vast desert, where the wind erased footsteps as quickly as they were made, stood a small settlement known as Lumorous Oasis. Life there was fragile. Water was limited, and survival depended on unity. Among the most respected men of the oasis lived Elias Whitmore. Elias was blind. He had lost his sight in childhood, and since then, the world existed for him only through sound, touch, and memory. Yet despite his blindness, people trusted him more than anyone else. He was fair, patient, and deeply faithful. Elias owned palm groves, wells, and land inherited from his ancestors. But wealth never made him proud. He believed that what truly defined a man was how he treated those weaker than himself. He had 3 children. Marcus, the eldest, was intelligent and ambitious, but his heart was hardened by greed. Julian, the middle son, lacked courage and always followed the strongest voice. And Celine, the youngest, was kind and gentle, yet afraid to stand against her brothers. After Elias's wife passed away, the family slowly fell apart. Grief turned into silence. Silence turned into resentment. And resentment turned into desire for inheritance. As the years passed, Elias grew older and weaker. Marcus noticed. One night, he spoke quietly to Julian. "Why should we wait?" he said. "Our father cannot see, and soon he will not be able to decide." Julian hesitated, but fear kept him silent. Celine heard the conversation and said nothing. One morning, Marcus approached Elias with a calm and respectful tone. "Father," he said, "there is an ancient well deep in the desert. People say its water brings peace to the elderly. Allow us to take you there." Elias felt unease in his heart, but he trusted his sons. At dawn, they began the journey. They traveled far beyond the oasis, until the palm trees disappeared and only sand remained. The sun burned fiercely, and the wind howled like a warning. Then suddenly, the camels stopped. Without explanation, Marcus and Julian pulled Elias down. They took his water, his supplies, and his staff. "No one will ever find you here," Marcus said coldly. "The desert will decide your fate." Julian stood shaking, unable to meet his father's face. And they left. Alone beneath the burning sky, Elias collapsed. The sun scorched his skin, and thirst tightened his throat. He called out his children's names, not in anger, but in sorrow. As weakness consumed him, his fingers touched something cold in the sand. A silver ring. It was an old family heirloom, passed down for generations, engraved with strange symbols no one had ever understood. With the last of his strength, Elias pressed the ring into the sand and whispered, "Lord of the unseen, I place my life in your hands." Night fell, and then footsteps. Small, hesitant footsteps. A boy appeared from the darkness. His name was Aaron. He was an orphan who had wandered away from a passing caravan. He carried only a small bag and a nearly empty water flask. Without hesitation, Aaron offered the water. Life slowly returned to Elias. "Can you guide me, child?" Elias asked weakly. "I cannot see." Aaron nodded. "Then I will be your eyes." Together, they began walking through the desert. Aaron described everything he saw: the stars, the dunes, the movement of animals. And Elias taught him wisdom, stories of patience, faith, and justice. Stranger became companion. Companion became family. Days later, they rested near a group of ancient stones half buried in sand. Elias felt something unusual beneath his hand. Aaron uncovered a weathered map, marked with the same symbol as the ring. Elias understood. The ring was not jewelry. It was a key. Guided by the map, they searched until they found 3 stones stacked together beside a thorn bush. Beneath them lay a sealed well. When Aaron placed the ring into a hidden slot, the stone shifted. Below was an ancient chamber. There was no gold, no treasure of glittering wealth. Instead, there were documents, land deeds, records, and testimonies from Elias's ancestors. A legacy meant only for those guided by integrity, not greed. Using a hidden passage, they emerged near Lumorous Oasis. The people were stunned. Elias had returned alive. Marcus froze in fear. Julian broke down in shame. Celine wept, regret filling her heart. Elias told the truth. The community turned away from the sons who had betrayed their father. Elias reclaimed his rightful inheritance. and he adopted Aaron as his son. Years later, beneath the stars, Aaron asked, "Was the treasure what saved you?" Elias smiled. "No, my son. You were." And here our story ends. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more powerful stories every day. Because eyes may see the world, but the heart sees the truth. Sometimes survival is not the end of the story. Sometimes it is only the beginning. After his miraculous return to Lumerous Oasis, Elias Whitmore became a living legend. The blind man who had been abandoned in the desert had returned stronger, wiser, and accompanied by a boy no one had ever seen before. People whispered his name in awe, but admiration often awakened something dangerous. Elias rebuilt his life with quiet dignity. With the ancient documents he had recovered, he reclaimed forgotten lands and restored abandoned wells. Trade slowly returned to the oasis, and at his side stood Aaron, no longer just a lost child, but a son in every meaning of the word. Elias taught him letters. He taught him numbers. But most importantly, he taught him restraint. Power without mercy, Elias would say, is blindness of a different kind. Aaron listened carefully, but not everyone welcomed their success. Marcus and Julian had lost everything: respect, influence, and trust. Yet resentment burned hotter than shame. One night, Marcus whispered to Julian, "Our father may have survived the desert, but he will not survive the truth." Julian hesitated. "What truth?" he asked. Marcus smiled. "The kind that destroys reputations." Days later, rumors spread like fire. Marcus claimed the documents Elias had recovered were stolen, that the treasure was cursed, that the blind man had been manipulated by a child with hidden motives. Doubt crept into the oasis. Some began to question Elias. Aaron noticed the change. "Father," he asked quietly, "why do people look at us differently now?" Elias sighed. "When truth rises," he said, "lies always gather to push it back down." The council of elders summoned Elias. They demanded proof, but Elias could not see the documents. And Aaron was still just a boy. Marcus watched from the crowd, confident. This time, he believed the desert would not be needed. Elias stood before the people, calm, silent. Then he spoke. "I ask for no defense," he said, "only for my sons to stand before me." Marcus stepped forward. So did Julian. Elias turned his face toward them. "Tell them," he said gently, "where you left me." Silence fell like stone. Julian trembled. And then he broke. He confessed everything. Marcus shouted, denied, threatened. But the truth had already escaped. The council ruled. Marcus was banished from the oasis. Julian was stripped of authority and left to live under the weight of his guilt. Justice was done, not through revenge, but through truth. That night, Aaron found Elias alone. "Why didn't you punish them?" Aaron asked. "They tried to destroy you again." Elias smiled softly. "Because punishment blinds," he said. "But mercy teaches." Aaron nodded. And in that moment, the boy understood something deeper than anger. Months later, a caravan arrived. Among them was a stranger carrying news. Marcus had fallen ill in the desert. Alone. Forgotten. Aaron looked at Elias. Elias said nothing. Finally, Aaron spoke. "We should help him." Elias's lips curved into a quiet smile. "Then you see clearly, my son," he said. Years passed. Aaron grew into a man respected across the desert. And Elias, though blind, lived surrounded by light. Because the greatest inheritance he left behind was not land, but vision. Don't forget to subscribe and press like. He wrote in the comments which country you are watching from.